Elysium City is drowning. Do you even recognize what it could mean if this shadow organization is behind these attacks? We can't hide from the storm, Salim. Salim's heart raced, his mind scattered amid the turbulence of the city's fate ahead. And what if we're wrong? What if we cause another collapse? Suddenly, the ground shook violently, sending tremors through the building, the lights flickering ominously. He grasped the table, steadying himself, and swept his gaze toward Amelia, who was already collecting her things. A resolute spark ignited in her eyes. Which is why we need to confront them, Salim. No more hiding in the shadows. Through the crack in the door, the sounds of chaos filtered in, screams mingled with the unsettling symphony of destruction. Salim felt the weight of his powers pressing against him, recalling promises and burdens. Are you ready for this? You could be exposing yourself to the worst of it. I've never backed down from a fight, and neither should you, Amelia shot back, defiantly setting her jaw. The storm outside intensified, rain now plunging like daggers against the pavement. The darker the clouds grew, the more resolute Salim felt. Then we dive into the heart of it together. Together, she echoed, an unspoken pact igniting between them amidst the approaching storm. Scene 53, Whispers of Dissent. Deep within the steel and glass confines of Apex Vanguard headquarters, tension crackled in the air like static before a storm. A circle of tired faces, some etched deeper with worry than others, regarded each other in a perceptible silence, broken only by the rhythmic tapping of fingers on screens. Salim Kairu, known to the world as Gravitas, stood at the center, his shoulders squared against a maelstrom of doubt. Is it really worth it? One of the field agents asked, a note of frustration lacing his voice. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed defensively over his chest. Every time we risk our necks, they seem to come back stronger. What's the point of fighting on if? Salim cut him off with a sharp shake of his head, his jaw tight. Turning your back is not the answer, Reeve. They'll only grow bolder if we retreat. The weight of his words hung heavily, the flickering overhead lights casting shadows over his face as his gaze swept over the team. A few murmurs of agreement fluttered like dying embers, but the doubt lingered, thick in the air. The council's decisions are getting reckless, another voice chimed in, a woman with a habit of biting her nails as she sat hunched over the interface. Her eyes darted towards the screens, where live feeds depicting chaos throughout Elysium City blinked ominously. What if they're not even considering the collateral damage? We might lose even more innocent lives. Salim felt the heat rise in his chest. He clenched his fists, forcing himself to maintain composure. The city was fraying at the edges. He could feel it in his bones. The Republic of Elysium, once a bastion of justice, was on the brink of collapse. His mentor's promise echoed in his mind, but the stakes had never felt higher, the consequences of failure never so dire. Look at that! A technician shouted from the back, pointing at the screen with rising urgency. They're hitting vital infrastructure to draw us away from the civilians. They want us divided. The scene shifted to show massive explosions devastating the once bustling downtown district, plumes of smoke rising like dark sentinels against the ashen sky. Salim shifted on his feet, feeling his heart race in response to the raw urgency. Reeve, get tactical support organized. We need medevac teams to reroute and prepare for the worst. Emily, coordinate surveillance to identify their main target, Salim ordered, his voice firm and commanding, cutting through the knots of discontent. The air felt electric as the team snapped into motion, their reluctance starting to bleed into determination. As matters unfolded, he could sense the dissent simmer, precariously close to boiling over. The critical voices remained, whispers here and there, blades of discontent weaving through the fragile alliance. Salim's gaze softened as it landed on Emily, her brow furrowed with resolve, despite the fear glittering in her eyes. We can't afford to question our morality when they're out there orchestrating chaos. They are playing us against ourselves, Salim said, his voice steady yet strained. If we lose faith in each other, we lose everything. He knew the cost of bind ruptures too well. The memory of his late mentor, the brilliance of his scientific mind, now nothing but a ghost, pressed heavily upon him. He had sworn to protect this city, to uphold the values it stood for. The sacrifices he must make hung like an anchor around his heart. Right, but if we're not united, We'll only be delaying the inevitable, Reeve muttered, staring into his hands. You think we're the only ones who've lost faith? The Vanguard's not the monolith it was. Salim stepped closer, inching into the growing tension. We are more than a monolith. We are a force, and we can't fall apart at the seams. I've seen what happens when good people lose their way. He locked eyes with each member of the Vanguard in turn, feeling the palpable push and pull of doubt. We fight for the city, for its people, for each other. We've faced larger threats, and we've prevailed, together. Together, echoed Emily, her voice softer yet firmer in its declaration. You want to dissent? Salim's tone lowered, a heavy challenge hanging in the air. Then, be dissenters with purpose. We rise as one or risk losing everything that we've built. Silence enveloped the room, his words settling like ash. The weight of responsibility shifted onto their shoulders, leaving them with a grim sense of urgency. They were at the edge, the choice still hanging precariously before them. Outside, Elysium City continued to burn, the battle not yet lost, but far from won. Suit up, everyone, Salim finally commanded, feeling the familiar pulse of adrenaline awaken him. We have a city to save. Scene 54, Moments of Doubt. The oppressive clouds loomed over Elysium City, their menacing silhouettes matched by a thunderous rhythm in the distance. The wind howled, whipping through the deserted streets, carrying with it the scent of rain and the faintest trace of smoke. Salim Kairu stood on the rooftop of an abandoned warehouse, staring down at the chaos below. Rain began to fall, large droplets splattering against his suit, the fabric absorbing the turmoil of his inner thoughts. Why do I keep doing this? The question echoed violently in his mind, clashing with the pulse of the unrelenting city, a city he had sworn to protect. Each drop of rain felt like the weight of another promise broken. Salim knew he was heroic. He wielded godlike power and brushed shoulders with the monumental. Yet beneath the grandeur of his abilities was an undeniable doubt, a fear that clawed at his very being. A distant explosion reverberated through the air, jolting him back to reality. A plume of fire erupted a few blocks away, followed by a wave of screams. He didn't have the luxury of idle contemplation. The people needed him. Before he could consider his choices further, the countdown on his wrist activated. A stark beep resonated through the chaos 10 seconds. This again? He thought, the wariness of his dual life adding an extra weight to the steel encasing his heart. He felt the familiar pull as his consciousness shifted into the Apex Vanguard's clone body, a smooth transition made urgent by the flickering red lights of his watch. Glancing down at the warehouse below, Salim watched as thick, black tendrils of smoke curled upwards, obscuring what was once a bustling intersection. The asphalt was cracked and glowing from the heat of the blaze, the sinister laugh of a villain echoing within. Not today, Salim muttered, channeling the determination he needed to fight right through the doubt. He took a leap off the rooftop, his body cutting through the air with graceful intensity, wind howling around him. The impact shattered the asphalt as he landed, the force sending a shockwave that staggered everyone nearby, causing chaos amongst the few spectators frozen in fear. Dust billowed around him for a moment. He reveled in the adrenaline that surged through him, igniting the fire that fueled his resolve. From the swirling cloud of debris emerged Torment, a villain with a warped sense of justice, his skin seemingly woven from shadows, a complex patchwork of anguish and anger. He wielded the power to manipulate fear itself, generating illusions that could unravel the strongest of beings. Gravitas, Torment drawled, his voice smooth and chilling. You really think you can save them all? They're only going to suffer a new kind of pain. Soon enough, they'll beg me for release. Salim glared ahead without hesitance, the pounding rain mixing with the intensity of his resolve. Your twisted notions of power will only lead to your downfall. He shouted back, voice firm, echoing across the growing chaos. The villain grinned, madness flickering in his eyes, before gesturing ominously toward an elevated road nearby. Let's see how long you can keep them safe. With a flick of his wrist, a chain of violent illusions erupted, specters of faceless victims seemingly lost and wilting under pressure. Salim's heart tightened, each visage echoing memories of people he had failed to save. Malfunctioning images struck at his core, yet he stood grounded, channeling his energy as flames erupted around him. I'll not let fear dictate my actions. Salim growled, charging through the illusions with a single-minded purpose, grounded in truth. He lunged at Torment, his fist connecting solidly with the villain's jaw, the sound of impact slicing through the cacophony of destruction. With a fierce kick, he sent Torment staggering, but the villain was quick to recover, conjuring a wave of darkness that seethed towards Salim like a living thing. The black mist coiled around him, whispering secrets of doubt and betrayal, trying to seep into his mind, but Salim flexed his willpower, shattering the chains of despair that tried to bind him. Rain poured heavier, stinging his skin, but the onslaught of the elements only invigorated him further. With each calculated strike, he dismantled Torment's defenses. It wasn't just a battle of strength, it was a battle for hope against a tide of fear. As Salim delivered another crushing blow, he felt the simmering doubt begin to fade, replaced with the raw intensity of purpose. Tugging himself away from the brink of self-doubt, he found solace in the very reason he fought, the people whose lives hung in the balance. "Your reign of terror ends today," Salim shouted, fueled by the righteous fire burning brightly in his chest, even as the storm above unleashed its fury. Scene 55, Shadow Games. Salim Kairu stood on the precipice of the crumbling roof, the distant sirens wailing like ghosts through the shrouded streets of Elysium City. Below him, chaos reigned, an insidious force orchestrated by a shadow organization that sought to rewrite the very fabric of existence. He felt the weight of his promise to his late mentor settle on his shoulders, tightening like a vice. Protect the city, no matter the cost. With a firm grip on the ledge, he inhaled deeply, tasting the ash of recent devastation in the air, mingling with the hint of rain that threatened to cascade down upon him. Suddenly, a cacophony of shattering glass erupted as three masked mercenaries barreled through a nearby window. Their silhouettes emerged like phantoms in the dim light, weapons drawn and eyes glinting with malevolence. Salim steeled himself, muscles coiling like springs, ready to unleash havoc against the encroaching threat. "Gravitas, you think you can stop the inevitable?" one of the mercenaries sneered, brandishing a serrated blade, its edge gleaming ominously. Salim's response was the snarl of his own physicality bursting forth as he launched himself off the rooftop. The mercenary blinked, stunned, as Salim descended, twisting mid-air with an almost balletic grace, before crashing down with a thundering impact that sent shockwaves through the ground. Debris flew in all directions as he landed amidst them, his own fists clenched and pulsing with energy. As he surged forward, Salim felt the intoxicating rush of adrenaline igniting his senses. He dodged a wild swing from the nearest assailant, pivoting on his heel to deliver a counterstrike that connected with a reverberating crack against the man's jaw. Time slowed, breath catching in fragmented gasps. This was his arena, and he would desolate everything that stood in the way of saving Elysium City. A second mercenary aimed a tactical baton, a metal whir cutting through the air. Salim sidestepped it effortlessly, his awareness flaring in a cocktail of instinct and calculated precision. The baton whizzed past, grazing his side but igniting a fire within him. With a swift kick, he sent the weapon flying from the man's grasp, following up immediately with an uppercut that sent the thug sprawling into a nearby dumpster. The first mercenary staggered back, struggling to recapture his footing. Salim pursued him relentlessly, landing two punishing punches that blended seamlessly into his survival instincts, each strike a calculated dance of violence. But even as he dispatched the first two foes, he sensed more lurking, a third presence, clever and cunning. Suddenly, the last masked figure flicked a switch hidden on his tactical vest. A menacing array of holographic illusions materialized before Salim, warping the very air with shimmering distortions. Shadows morphed into twisted images of his greatest fears, visions of Elysium City engulfed in flames, innocent faces screaming in terror. "Try to save them now," the mercenary taunted, his laughter echoing hollow in the chaos. Salim wrestled with the images, fiercely shaking his head. He wouldn't let them sway him. "You think distractions will break me?" His voice was a growl, through teeth clenched in determination. He concentrated, grounding himself in the sensation of steady heartbeat against the thunderous backdrop of scattered cries. With a fierce surge of willpower, he tore through the illusions, each step closer to his adversary, fueled by the very desire to defend everyone he cherished. Silvery arcs of energy sparked from his palms, illuminating the darkness that threatened to swallow him whole. The mercenary readied his blade, eyes wide with newfound caution. "You're out of your depth, superhero." In a fluid motion, Salim ignited a shockwave that collided with the mercenary, the force ripping through the illusions and sending the assassins sprawling into the night. Power and determination surged together in a cosmic ballet, tipping the scale back toward hope. But he knew this was just the beginning. They were the pawns, and the true game played in the shadows was far from over. The real puzzle lay ahead. His mission was larger than these mercenaries. It was a battle for existence itself, as unseen forces exerted their will from the depths of the multiverse. Turning his gaze towards the horizon, the interplay of light and darkness danced before him like a sworn vow. For Elysium City, he would fight, dragging every night into dawn. "Come." He exhaled through clenched jaws, a promise to himself and to the city he vowed to protect. "Let's see what you have planned next." Scene 56. Revelation in the midst of chaos. Elysium City lay wrapped in a blanket of ominous gray clouds, thick and heavy, as if the sky itself was bracing for the chaos that erupted below. The distant sound of thunder rumbling echoed the tension thrumming through the streets, a prelude to the devastation about to unfold. Smoke curled lazily from the ruins of a recently attacked high-tech corporation, its shimmering glass facade shattered, reflecting fragments of panic and fear in every jagged shard. Gravitas stood amidst the chaos, muscles coiled, his vivid blue armor glinting with the sporadic flashes of lightning that illuminated the darkened skyline. He felt the electric pulse of danger crackling in the air and knew he had little time. The villain, Oculus, a cunning shapeshifter with a penchant for destruction, stood at the center of the fray, surrounded by a whirlwind of energy. "You think you can save them all?" Oculus taunted, the distorted voice echoing through the ruins as he unleashed waves of chaotic energy, sending debris tumbling. His form flickered, half rising, as if ready to meld into the very shadows that danced around him. "You're wrong if you think I won't try," Gravitas shot back, positioning himself like a shield between the panic-stricken civilians scrambling to find safety and the unleashed chaos. Among the terrified faces, he caught a glimpse of a familiar figure, Amelia Hart, his love interest and relentless journalist, her brow furrowed in determination as she documented the destruction unfolding before her. "Get out of here, Amelia!" he shouted, a grim edge slicing through his voice as he deflected a twisted shard of concrete aimed at her. The city may have needed a hero, but it also needed its people alive. Amelia met his gaze, resolute and unyielding. "I can't just stand by," she called back, her heart raging against the fear tightening in her chest. The crackling flakes of energy from Oculus exploded too close for comfort, yet she wouldn't abandon the story, the truth, spiraling out before her. Gravitas could almost feel her resolve pulling at him, straining against the forces of chaos, and he found himself straddling that line between hero and man, caught up in the storm of personal stakes. Suddenly, Oculus flashed a manic grin and zoomed towards the nearest skyscraper, conjuring an illusion of the building's facade, sending it crashing towards the crowd. Gravitas lunged, rocketing forward with relentless speed, arms extending in defense as he shifted to a protective stance. Habitual tension flooded his veins, his instincts honing on pure adrenaline. The ground trembled beneath him, and as he pushed back against the overwhelming weight of danger, a thought emerged. Could he fail? Just as his fingers grazed the eerie construct, revelatory recognition surged through his mind. The crash resounded with a shocking boom, but his focus spiraled into a deeper truth. He sensed a tremor beneath the surface, a fragmented memory of Amelia's family intertwined in this chaos. "Your past is as murky as your present, Oculus. What do you want with Elysium?" Gravitas demanded, throwing a fist towards the illusion's heart, disrupting its form. "With Elysium?" "Oh, my dear hero," Oculus retorted, smirking as he regained his composure, the daylight flickering against his darkened form. "It's not just about power. It's about how fully one can sow despair into the veins of this city. Or should I say, how much blood flows from a certain heart." Shock pierced through Gravitas, like a dagger in the chest. Amelia's last name hung heavy on the air between them, dredging up heaviness as the truth twisted around his heart. Could her lineage be tied to the shadowy organization that fed this villain's malevolence? "This ends now," Gravitas growled, emotions roaring to the fore as he surged forward. The battle had moments of dominance, a symphony of strikes and impacts that sent shockwaves rippling through Elysium. With extreme force, he slammed into Oculus, delivering a barrage of blows against his shifting form, unrelenting in aggression. But each strike felt heavier now, every evasion more vital. Not just the city, but Amelia's blood ran deeper in this fight than he'd ever realized. Gravitas let out an anguished roar as lightning sliced through the discoidal storm overhead. Elysium was suffocating, but Amelia's strength provided the resolve he desperately needed. He was not fighting alone, he was fighting for her, and that knowledge ignited flames of determination within him. "This isn't just about saving cities, Gravitas. You're defending secrets buried by time," Oculus hissed, shifting to the edge of the battlefield. "What comes next will unravel everything you think you know." In that electric, chaos-hued moment, Gravitas found clarity in an intertwining tapestry of fate and fight. The battle still raged, but the stakes had been raised. Everything had just escalated to a new level. "You'll find out I'm not that easily undone," he emphasized, voice firm as storm clouds spun overhead. "Neither I, nor the truth." As the battle surged around him, he propelled into combat once more, invigorated yet aware that the deeper fight for Amelia, for the truth, was only just beginning. Scene 57. The Heart of Despair. The skies over Elysium City roiled with storm clouds, ominous and heavy, as Gravitas stood atop the shattered remnants of what was once the skyward bridge. His heart was a tempest of conflicting emotions, swirling like the darkened clouds above. He clenched his jaw, every muscle in his body taut with the weight of his duty. It wasn't just a battleground, it was the heart of his city, a fragile entity that mirrored his internal turmoil. He cast a lingering glance down at the chaos below. Fires flickered in the wreckage, billowing clouds of smoke rising skyward. People ran, panic etched on their features, their voices a symphony of despair that resonated deep within him. Each cry echoed the burden he had accepted, the weight of his powers, and the vow he made to protect them at all costs. Could he truly hold back the tide of despair that threatened to swallow them all? When the faint sound of crackling energy reached his ears, his instincts snapped to attention. He pivoted, scanning the area, his eyes narrowing. Shadows danced between the structural ruins, a malevolent force coalescing into form. It emerged, an impossible silhouette, tall and clad in glimmering armor that seemed to absorb light, a suit that pulsated with a chaotic rhythm, reflecting the dark power cloaked around him. "Ah, Gravitas," the figure rasped, voice dripping with disdain. "You finally decided to grace us with your pathetic presence." Gravitas surged forward without a moment's hesitation, launching himself into the air, propelled by an explosion of raw energy. He felt the rush of wind against him, a visceral reminder of his abilities, of his responsibility. As he descended, veins ablaze with intensity, he locked onto the shadowy figure, determination fueling his every move. "Enough games, Oblivion," he snapped, his voice a low growl. "Release this city from your clutches." Oblivion only laughed, a sound that grated against his psyche like nails on a chalkboard. "Such righteous fervor," he mocked. "But righteousness will do little against the void." With a flick of his wrist, Oblivion unleashed a wave of dark energy toward Gravitas, tendrils of shadow that stretched and writhed like living things, aimed to ensnare him. Gravitas rolled to evade, his body instinctively reacting, muscles coiling and releasing with fluid precision. The dark tendrils crashed against a nearby building, ripping through steel and concrete, collapsing a section with terrifying ease, sending debris crashing down onto the chaotic streets below. The sight of innocent people trapped beneath the rubble ignited an urgent fire within him. He had seen too many lives shattered by forces like this, and the thought of failing them, it was unbearable. "Your reign of terror ends now." Gravitas roared, launching from his cover and striking upward with an electric wave of force. He collided against Oblivion, the impact sending shockwaves that cracked the pavement beneath them like the thunder that rolled through the skies. Oblivion staggered only briefly, his laughter tittering amidst the chaos. "You think you can merely strike me down? I thrive in despair, Gravitas. The more you fight, the stronger I grow." Before Gravitas could react, Oblivion unleashed a blinding burst of dark light, engulfing the space around them. He shielded his eyes, but the shadows were already wrapping around him, constricting like a vice. Panic seized his breath, a fleeting taste of helplessness threatening to ground him. He fought against it, against the darkness creeping into his mind. Straining against the bonds, he caught a glimpse of Elysium City's skyline, marred by chaos, yet holding a glimmer of hope, a flicker that ignited his resolve anew. With a roar that echoed through the storm, Gravitas channeled his energy, breaking free from the shadow's grasp. He felt the force whip through him, a surge of brilliance that cut through the dark like sunlight piercing a storm. In the heart of despair, I am your reckoning, he declared, launching himself toward oblivion with renewed fury. With every strike, the weight of his promise shaped his blows. Each clash radiated determination, a visceral commitment to reclaiming the city from the shadow's grip. There could be no darkness he wouldn't fight through, no despair that would claim Elysium unchallenged. And deep within, a single thought thrummed, a mantra that would carry him through the onslaught. If he didn't stand against the darkness, who would? Scene 58, Clashing Truths. The air was thick with tension as droplets of rain began to fall, a soft patter that quickly escalated into a torrential downpour. Salim Kairu stood in his dampened backyard, hands entrenched in the dirt, as he rifled through weeds, choking the life out of his garden. Each root he uprooted felt like a small victory, an outlet for the emotions stifling him. He could hardly see the tender sprouts beneath as the rain blurred the lines of his work. Amelia Hart stepped outside, her hair clinging to her damp forehead like scattered strands of sunlight fighting against the storm. She watched him, taking in the silhouette of a man who appeared to wrestle with more than just the weeds in front of him. "Are you trying to grow flowers or cultivate a jungle?" she asked, a teasing lilt in her voice, but the smile quickly faded as she stepped into the unrelenting drizzle. "Maybe I just want to get my hands dirty," he replied, the edge of humor threading through his words. Yet there was no laughter behind them, just the overwhelming fear gnawing at his insides. Amelia came closer, the scent of rain-soaked earth mixed with her floral perfume eliciting a familiar comfort. But today, something felt out of place. "You need to talk about what happened last week," she pressed, her voice transitioning from lighthearted to serious, as powerful as a crack of lightning overhead. "Nothing happened," Salim grunted, his focus still on the ground, his hands working tirelessly to remove what he deemed unsightly. "The city is fine. I'm fine." She stepped further into the garden, brushing droplets off her arms as she closed the distance between them. "You can't keep lying to me, Salim. You can't keep pretending everything is okay when we both know it's not." Her words tore through the rain, imbued with urgency. "No, I can't," he snapped, finally ripping out a stubborn weed and tossing it aside as if it contained all his frustration. "But it's my responsibility. I don't want you involved." "Then stop shutting me out," she interrupted, determination igniting her teal eyes. "We might be living different realities, but that doesn't mean I don't want to help. I want to understand." He turned to face her, the weight of his secret pressing on him like the storm clouds above. "You understand nothing about the world I navigate," he said, his voice low and heavy like the sky threatening to unleash more than rain. "I might not live it, but I see it," Amelia countered, her hands finding her hips defiantly. "The reports I cover, the people in shadows. You might think you're saving the day, but the truth is you're just delaying something far worse." In that moment, thunder rumbled ominously, mirroring their brewing argument. Salim caught the fraying strands of their conversation in a one-handed fist, merging the tension of the moment into something visceral. "And what would you have me do? Take you along? Expose you to that madness?" He took a step closer, the rain pouring down around them like a shield against the chaos of the outside world. "I will protect you, no matter the cost." Amelia stepped back, crossing her arms as the heavens unleashed a torrent. "I need more than protection, Salim. I need the truth," she shouted above the roar of the rain. "Do you really think keeping me in the dark keeps me safe?" Thunder cracked as he took words to heart. "It's not just your safety I worry about, Amelia. It's the danger looming overhead. If I fail to stop this threat, the stakes will raise far beyond what you can imagine. Elysium City isn't just my home, it's your home too, and I will do everything to keep it and you safe, even if it means living with this burden alone. The air between them thickened with uncertainty, a fragile thread stretching taut. You're not alone, Salim. You don't have to fight this war by yourself. She implored, her voice softer now, a gentle plea woven amidst the turbulence. But before he could answer, he was hit with a surge of awareness. His watch vibrated ominously against his wrist. A familiar voice echoed in his head, urgent and direct. 10 seconds to threat detected. Salim's heart raced. He lifted his gaze to Amelia, momentarily drawn in by the storm in her eyes, a storm that mirrored the chaos that was about to ensue. I have to go, he said, dread creeping in. Go, she echoed, alarmed. More is at stake than you know, he said swiftly, stepping backwards, the rain continuing to weave around them like serpents in the dark. Trust me, Amelia. But as the world began to fade around him, he saw the confusion and hurt etched on her face, an image unfairly imprinted at that fateful moment of departure. I will explain everything, he finished, as the scene shifted in an explosion of light, leaving Amelia caught in the storm and feeling more alone than ever. Scene 59. An ominous gathering. The heavy rain drummed against the windows of the Apex Vanguard headquarters, the rhythmic patter acting like a spine-tingling melody heralding a gathering of shadows. Salim Kairu, also known as Gravitas, stood before a holographic display, his brow furrowed in concentration. The blue light flickered across his face, illuminating the weary determination etched in his features. The air was thick with tension as the Vanguard intel that streamed from the projector depicted map locations glowing ominously in crimson. Every signal indicates a convergence point, Captain Nigeria said, his voice low and steady. The man's presence was marked by an air of authority, his sharp gaze cutting through the heavy atmosphere. They've assembled their forces in Sector Delta. If we don't strike first, the shadows will take their fight to the streets. Salim clenched his jaw, the hardness in his expression a mask for the turmoil within. His eyes darted across the display, registering enemy troop movements but reeling from the implications. A sense of dread settled in his chest, gnawing at the edges of his resolve. This isn't just about us anymore, he murmured, the gravity of potential multiverse warfare weighing heavily on him. They're laying the groundwork for chaos. Let them gather, Nigeria replied, his voice brimming with unshaken confidence. We'll show them what happens when they step into our territory. A silence stretched between them, punctuated only by the persistent roar of the rain outside. Salim's mind wrestled with images of destruction, the screaming citizens, the crumbled buildings. He could not allow Elysium City, his home, to be a casualty of this impending war. You know, Nigeria continued, eyes narrowing as he met Salim's gaze, they're counting on us to hesitate. Don't underestimate their tactics. Fear grows in the spaces we leave vacant. A pulse of awareness coursed through Salim, a flicker of recognition that ignited the warrior spirit within him. He took a deep breath, straightening his shoulders. I won't let fear dictate my choices. If they're plotting a full-on strike, we'll deal with them. I'd rather we lead the charge than wait to be driven into a corner. Nigeria nodded, a hint of approval ghosting across his stern features. Good. Prepare for deployment. We'll hit them hard and fast. As Nigeria's commands solidified, Salim felt his heart rate accelerate. The stakes had never been higher, and a weight of expectation loomed over him. If he faltered here, lives would be on the line, innocent lives that depended on the strength of his resolve. Salim, Nigeria said, softening slightly as he scrutinized the younger man. This isn't just another mission. You've been carrying a heavy burden, but you're not alone. A twitch at the corner of Salim's mouth hinted at a smile that never came. I know, he said, the acknowledgement sounding both grateful and empty. Alone was a term he had learned to embrace. But this isn't just about battling villains. It's a struggle to save everything I care about. Just remember, Nigeria replied, voice thick with intensity, every sacrifice has its price. As their conversation hung in the air, a surge of adrenaline coursed through Salim, electrifying his muscles. He was prepared now, resolved to storm the heart of this darkness gathering just beyond their grasp, willing to confront whatever lay ahead. A flicker of emotion crossed through him, reminding him of Amelia, the fiery journalist with a penchant for getting into trouble. The image of her, undeterred, questioning, and digging for truths, grounded him in a way that nothing else could. He would not let her down. Not now. "Let's make them regret calling this war," Salim said, a fierce determination infusing his voice. "May the shadows tremble," Nigeria replied, a nod signifying the shift in gears. The holographic images faded, the rooms coming back to their stark, sterile reality. The countdown to engagement loomed closer, a battlefield awaited. Salim took a deep breath, feeling the weight of imminent battle wrapping around him like a cloak. Decisions had to be made, alliances formed, and chaos undoubtedly unleashed. As he stepped forward, resolve forged in the heart of impending storm, Salim thought fiercely of what battled for his soul, the stakes of love intertwined with the relentless duty of protecting Elysium City, a city not ready to fall. "Let's show them the light," Salim declared, moving toward the exit, exhilaration coursing through his veins. And outside, the rain began to lessen, a signal of simmering storms ahead. Unity through struggle. In the heart of Elysium City, the skyline twisted, jagged spires clawing at an ominous sky bruised with swirling black clouds. The palpable tension in the air hummed like a wire stretched beyond its limit. Gravitas stood at the precipice of the rooftop, his gaze locked on the chaos unfurling below, a swirling tempest of panic and destruction as a horde of villains began to converge. Echoes of distant sirens sharpened the weighted silence around him, prickling the skin under his suit. Clenching his fists, Gravitas felt the surge of energy ripple through him, kneading the muscles under his skin as if lightning were dancing in his veins. He straightened, casting a glance at the team gathered behind him, their faces a spectrum of determination and fear. He could sense their anxiety, mirrored in their body language, tight hands, furrowed brows. It was all there. He turned to his right, where Arclight, a vibrant figure cloaked in electric blue, flickered on the edge of visibility, his own nervous energy crackling in the air between them. "We can't falter now," Gravitas said, his voice deep and resolute, cutting through the tension like a knife. "Not when we need to show them we're united." Arclight adjusted his stance, trembling slightly as he nodded. "But if we fail, what then?" "Failure isn't an option. It can't be," Gravitas replied, his jaw tight as he stepped closer, their eyes locking. His intensity was a fire that seemed to ignite flickering embers of resolve in the group. "Each of you is critical. Trust in your powers, and trust in each other." As if summoned by their collective determination, the ground beneath the city heaved, a low rumble vibrating through the steel girders of the buildings surrounding them. Amelia Hart, still playing her part as a fearless journalist, suddenly appeared at the edge of the roof, her eyes wide with a mix of concern and pride as she stepped forward, breaking the electric tension. "Are you really doing this?" she asked, her voice steady yet laced with an undercurrent of hope. Gravitas turned his head, the weight of responsibility etched on his features as he smiled faintly, his heart racing even amid the chaos. "For Elysium, for all of us." She hesitated, a flicker of doubt crossing her face, but Gravitas's gaze was unwavering, electric. It was hard to keep the connection solid with the storm brewing below, yet there was warmth in their brief exchange, a flicker of understanding that spanned the boundaries of hero and human. Just then, an explosion rippled outwards in the distance, and a building crumbled like dust, sending a cloud of debris into the air. People screamed, a cascading sound of despair that shattered the brief moment of calm. It was a grim reminder of their stakes. "Let's go," Gravitas shouted, propelling himself forward, the ground shifting beneath him. He landed with an explosive thud at the edge of the city street, a cracked slab of concrete exploding beneath his feet as he faced the first of the attacking villains. Nox, shadowy and twisted, eyes glistening with malevolent delight as he commanded the darkness around him. "We're here to take what's ours, Gravitas," Nox laughed, his voice dripping with contempt. "You think you can rally your little team and be heroes? This city belongs to chaos." Gravitas glanced back at Arclight and the others, his heart affirming what he'd told them. "Remember to fight together," he ordered, fists raised, the air crackling with potential. "Trust each other. It's the only way we'll win." With that, he charged into the fray, the thunder of his boots matching the pulse of the city beneath him, as a blend of light and shadow erupted in the perfect tempest of struggle and unity. The sound of fists pounding flesh and the crackle of energy mixed with desperate cries, a chaotic symphony of defiance against the unimaginable storm. As the battle roared, Gravitas found himself both the sculptor, shaping the dimensions of destiny, and the guardian holding together the threads of trust among his allies. In this moment, as their powers surged and intertwined, he understood that unity was their ultimate weapon, not just against the villains, but against the encroaching despair threatening to engulf their world entirely. And as he grappled with Nox, he could almost hear Amelia's voice whispering through the chaos, a battle cry that filled him with purpose. We will rise together. Scene 61. Brace for impact. Elysium City was a battleground, caught in the throes of chaos as shadows of destruction hovered on the horizon. The sky burned with a palette of red and orange, streaked with unnatural hues that flickered like a fast-dimming candle. Buildings trembled under the force of distant rumbles, and the air crackled with static, an uneasy premonition of the storm to come. Salim Kairu stood atop the Nexus Tower, his gaze fixed across the skyline, muscles taut and ready, as if his very presence might steady the trembling earth. In the distance, the ominous pulse of the multiverse convergence throbbed, a dark heartbeat of impending doom. The wind whipped around him, carrying the acrid scent of smoke mingled with the faint aroma of wet asphalt. Every nerve screamed for action as he prepared to engage any threat that might emerge from the gathering chaos. Captain Nigeria, he called into the comms, his voice firm yet electric with anticipation. We need to know where the impact points will hit first. Intel is patchy, Gravitas, Nigeria replied, his voice steady, though tinged with urgency. The fabric of reality is fraying. We need to disperse our forces to cover all potential attack zones. Understood, Salim replied, his brow furrowing as his mind raced through every apartment, every office, and every innocent life that might be caught in the crossfire. I'll head to Sector 9. It's a densely populated area. Forcing himself to shake off the spiraling nervous energy, he turned, catching a glimpse of Amelia in the Vanguard's command center below. A flicker of vulnerability cut through his resolve as he recalled her laughter, the way her eyes glinted with mischief. What might happen to her when the storm broke? Would he even have the chance to tell her how much she meant to him? A heaviness settled in his chest, yet he squared his shoulders, reminding himself that he was the protector, her protector. Gravitas, are you with us? Nigeria's directive pulled him from his thoughts. Of course, Salim replied, squeezing his eyes shut for a brief moment. I'm just processing the enormity of this. We're talking about a collision of worlds here. We can't afford to send anyone alone. You won't be alone, Nigeria assured him, the weight of their leader's words anchoring him. We'll focus our resources. You'll lead the first line. First impact or not, you face this head-on and save as many lives as you can. Salim's resolve tightened, adrenaline flooding his veins. Let's brace for impact then, he said, determination lacing his tone, even as doubt gnawed at the edges of his mind. Without waiting for any confirmation, he leapt from the rooftop, the wind rushing past him like a tidal wave as he shot toward the street below. He cleared the space effortlessly, his form blurring in a whirlwind of motion, until he landed with a thunderous impact that cracked the pavement beneath him. Salim's senses ignited, sights of people scattering in panic, the sounds of chaos ringing through the air, the taste of fear mixing with the bitter scent of smoke from the distant fires. He turned, ready to spring into action, when the air itself shimmered, distorting reality in front of him. A portal tore open, unveiling a remarkable figure swathed in flame, a figure whose very presence seared the ground upon which she stood. Ember, the once heroine turned nemesis, her dark hair aflame and eyes glimmering with an otherworldly malice. Gravitas, she purred, her voice a melody of chaos. You look so conflicted, ready to save your city or just eager to die trying. Neither, he shot back, fists clenched at his sides. You're not going to destroy this place, Ember. Not while I'm here. Oh, darling, this city is already crumbling. What's one more push? A tremor thrummed beneath his feet. Buildings swayed and creaked as a ripple of energy washed over the streets. Salim narrowed his gaze, every heartbeat pounding with the urgency of action. With one fluid motion, he launched himself into a striking sprint, a meteor of fury aimed at thwarting her twisted plans. She raised her hand, a wave of flames igniting toward him in a swift arc. He dove beneath the searing blaze, rolling back to his feet with a fierce resolve. "You want this showdown, Ember? Let's give them a reason to remember today." With those words, electric power surged through him as he charged forward, intent on cutting through the destruction and chaos, a sentinel fighting for the city that refused to surrender. In that moment, leaving Amelia behind was just a price he was ready to pay, but he swore silently that he would return to her, the rising storm at his back and the city on his shoulders. But as he hurled himself into the fray, he knew the coming impact was not just a collision of realms, it was a crucible, testing the metal of their very existence. Scene 62, A Love Unveiled. The city lay beneath a heavy gray sky, silhouetted against the fading light of dusk. Elysium City, once vibrant and full of life, now bore the scars of battles fought in the shadows. Crumbled facades of buildings whispered secrets of destruction, their remnants echoing the chaos that had erupted just days prior. The air, thick with the scent of wet pavement and lingering smoke, stirred a sense of unease within Salim Kairu as he stood on the balcony of his modest apartment, overlooking the vast expanse. His heart pounded in sync with the distant rumble of sirens and the soft flicker of emergency lights painting the streets below in a chaotic dance of red and blue. Watching Amelia Hart move about the small living room behind him, her silhouette cast against the soft glow of the lamp, he felt a duality that was becoming increasingly unbearable. He was drawn to her, her fiery spirit, the way she chased after the truth with relentless tenacity, but the burden of his secret weighed heavily on him. "Salim," Amelia's voice broke through his reverie, pulling him back from the edge of his thoughts. "Are you even listening?" She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, a hint of frustration creasing her brow. Her strength and vulnerability both made his heart ache and swell. "Sorry, I was just," he began, trailing off as he turned to meet her gaze. "I was thinking about everything happening outside. It just feels so chaotic," Amelia interrupted, stepping closer, the warmth of her presence spreading like wildfire in the cool evening air. "This city needs us to keep fighting, to keep speaking out, or it will drown under all this darkness." Her passion ignited something deep within him. His commitment wasn't just to the city anymore. It had shifted, expanded to include her. He moved to her side, the low hum of the traffic melding with their quiet breathing, creating a weighty yet intimate silence. "What if I told you I would do anything to protect this city?" he said, turning to her, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "Even if it meant stepping into the darkness myself." Amelia looked up at him, her emerald eyes glistening with both pride and concern. "You can't take it all on alone. You'd burn out." "Sometimes I feel like I'm already there," he confessed, stepping closer, the space between them almost electric. "But for you, I would endure anything. I just need you to understand that." "No," she interrupted again, her voice firm yet laced with tenderness. "You can't just push me away because you're afraid I might be hurt. I can handle this, Salim. I've faced danger before, more than you know." Salim's heart constricted, forcing him to swallow back the truth simmering so close to the surface. "What if I fail?" The words slipped out before he could stop them, ripping open a vulnerability he hardly dared reveal. "And what if you don't?" Amelia took another step closer, her hand finding his. The warmth of her skin against his broke through the numbing cold of doubt and fear. "You can't always be the hero alone, Salim. Love isn't just about protection, it's also about trust." His heart thundered at the word love. It had become both his sanctuary and his greatest fear. Love was chaos, and chaos had a way of breaking everything apart. As he looked into her eyes, he realized that her unwavering faith was like a beacon, fighting against the shadows that threatened to engulf him. "I promise I won't let this city down, and I won't let you down," he said, his voice resolute, though his insides twisted with the weight of the secret he held. "But you have to promise me you'll stay close, that you'll let me in. Always." Before he could say another word, the lingering chill outside suddenly rattled with a roar. Sirens blared, drowning out their moments of intimacy. A palpable tremor sliced through the tranquility of the evening, and the ground seemed to vibrate with distant, unyielding chaos. Salim, what's happening? Amelia's voice shook, her bravado faltering as she darted to the window, peering out into the growing chaos below. The moment drew taut. Salim's pulse quickened, feeling the familiar tug of duty, the undeniable call of the vanguard within him. He knew chaos was rising and he would have to answer the call, but Amelia remained a beacon amidst it all, anchoring him to his own humanity. "Stay here," he said, almost instinctively. The words barely left his mouth before an alert chimed on his wrist, the countdown ticking into action. "I'll be back before you even notice I'm gone." A lie, but one he had to tell. As his consciousness began to fragment, the last image he held was Amelia's fierce determination, a flame urging him to rise above the storm. "I promise," he vowed silently, knowing that protecting her would remain his ultimate battle, not just tonight, but every night. Scene 63, Twists and Turns. Salim Kairu stood in his modest apartment, the morning light pouring through the sheer curtains, casting a mosaic of amber patterns on the polished oak floor. It was a stark contrast to the chaos that lay just outside his window. Elysium City buzzed with its usual morning routine, yet the palpable tension in the air hinted at a storm brewing. The sounds of honking cars and shouting vendors didn't reach his mind. He was lost in thought, aching with a familiar weight as he set an object, his late mentor's pocket watch, on the dining table.